Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today is the day before Easter. I know it's been a while since I posted. Just been super busy. My daughter's quinceañera is next week. God dang it. So I've been super stressed out every single day, every single weekend's been running around doing errands, getting stuff ready, but we're a week away. We're almost there. So anyway, I wanted to take a quick minute to make a video. This is gonna be about worms, like how to keep them for a long time. I know for me, sometimes they last maybe like a couple weeks in the refrigerator beforehand, and then they would die. Did a lot of research on how to keep them up, how to like make them last longer, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna show you how I do it. Like I said, there might be 1,000 other ways to do it. This is the way I do it, and they've lasted me for quite a long time doing it this way. So give me a second, let me get you set up. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, so check it out. So like I said, beforehand, you know, we would all do the whole, you know, hey, when we come back from fishing, we got fish or we got worms left over, and we'd usually have like a little bit of bucket of this, or, you know, maybe even a couple of them. And in the past, I would just throw them in the refrigerator. Man, they'd last maybe like a week or two. After that, they're gonna be dead. So I was looking up online, you know, how to take care of worms. They have the whole thing to where you can buy special boxes, special bedding, special food, this and that. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. You know, these things cost like $2 each or something. I'm not going to spend $30, $40 on how to keep worms alive. So I just figured something out for myself. This is how I do it. So like I said, these have been since March 3rd. We went to Colorado last month. I wanted to go ice fishing. That didn't happen, so I brought the worms home with me. I've been able to keep them alive in here using the same food that I'm going to show you. But when you go to keep them for a longer period of time, it's better just to go ahead and move them out of something this small and putting in something bigger. So, and you can see, like I said, March 3rd. So I kept looking all over the place, you know, what kind of a container can I use? Some people were doing like ice chests, and they were keeping them in the garage. Some people had refrigerators in their garage. I'm like, I'm not doing all that. So what I settled on is the country crock container, right? Everybody has these. Everybody uses country crock or something like this. So don't feel like you can't use this. Like I said, it worked out for me, no issues. Now, when I first tested this out, I actually did it, you know, based off of what I saw online, the different things you can feed them, and I kept them for like 2 months. And I'm gonna put a little pop-up over here on the right-hand side. And those worms got so huge, and look at the picture that I'm going to be showing you. You've never seen worms come out of Academy Sports that thick. I mean, I kid you not, they're about as thick as my pinky, and that's pretty thick for a night crawler. So anyway, like I said, I grew them for a couple months, or I kept them for a couple months in the refrigerator, feed them like every 2 weeks or something, and they were fine. I mean, they were thriving. All of them were fat and juicy, but I never really used them. I don't really use worms that much just because I like fishing with my other baits. I only fish with the worms when I go somewhere either with kids and I know they need like a quick bite, or if I go somewhere that like I've never fished before, so I don't know how finicky the fish are going to be, then I'll take the worms. So like I said, I kept them for like 2 months. I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna use them. Let me just throw them out. So I went to go throw them out, and then I'm going to show you this other picture right here. We started putting them in the dirt, and then we saw something in the dirt, and I was like, what is that? You know, it was real weird looking. It looked like a little bitty worm, but it was clear. There was no color to it at all. And I was like, no, wait a minute, that can't be a worm. So then I looked at it closer. Sure enough, it was a baby worm. And what I had read online, that for people that want to, like, I guess, reproduce worms or grow worms or whatever you want to call it, that the condition has to be perfect in whatever environment that you keep them in for them to actually reproduce. And I was like, holy crap, I felt weird. I was like, if what I was doing was good enough to make them fat and juicy, but then it was also good enough for them to feel comfortable enough to reproduce in that environment, and then it has to work. So like I said, all you got to do is, and I'm going to take you step by step on what I do, and we'll go ahead and do it. I haven't staged anything over there to get the dirt, but like I said, just a country crock container. What you'll do is you'll take the lid of it, and if you've ever looked at the lid, I mean, the lid on these worm containers, the holes in the thing are so small, you don't have to have enough airflow for wind and air to blow through. It's just an exchange of oxygen. I don't know the terminology. So I figured if the holes are big enough on there to actually provide enough oxygen for the worms that are in the dirt already, then, you know, just a thumbtack or a push pin would be fine. So I'm going to have another picture-in-picture up top. I've never done this before. If it looks weird, I apologize, but I kind of want you to see what I'm doing with my hands as well as what I'm telling you, right? Hopefully it makes sense. So all you're going to do is just poke a bunch of holes. There's no pattern, there's no number of holes that I'm doing. I'm just putting a whole bunch of holes. So looking at that lid, there's maybe, if I had to guess, 10 or 20 holes. And that's what I'm doing with this thing. You can't really see. Like I said, you're just punching a bunch of holes. You're doing it small enough to where the worms can't come out, but you're doing it big enough to where there's that exchange of oxygen to where the oxygen could go in and they can come out without any problems. Like I said, there's no specific number. You're just poking a crap load of holes. Hopefully that shows up above me. It's not a lot. Like I said, you don't need a whole bunch of them. I've thought about making bigger holes, but then I'm like, if I'm keeping this in the refrigerator at my house, what am I gonna do if I open the refrigerator one time and there's freaking worms all over the goddamn refrigerator? You know, how am I gonna answer to that to my wife? So I was like, you know what? We'll keep the holes small. We don't have to worry about them getting out. And if for some reason the holes aren't enough, okay, then I'll find out pretty quick, right? So like I said, I'm probably just gonna leave it like that, right? Not a whole bunch of holes, but it's enough to where, you know, I can see through it somewhat. I'm not gonna worry about it. The next big step, and this is probably the most important, so you want to write that you have worms on here. And I know that sounds really dumb, but when I have to see here and figure out how to spell it. When you have it in the refrigerator and there's people just grabbing containers, if you don't have it written on there, somebody grabs it and they open it and they see freaking night crawlers just moving around, that's probably not a good thing. So just write worms all over the place. Write it as big or as small, it doesn't matter. And I know some people might be like, think that it's gross, like, ah, you got worms in your refrigerator. It's whatever it is. If you're married to a fisherman, there's probably worse things that you have in there other than worms. You probably have chicken livers, chicken feet, chicken heart, chicken whatever is for my refrigerator all over the place. So a container that has, you know, small holes for worms to breathe, to live in, it's not going to hurt nothing. Okay, one more time on the front. And my family knows that, hey, if there's a container in there and it says worms on it, guess what? Don't open it. There's worms. All right, so now we have that. So now, as far as bedding, you know, they sell bedding online that you can buy. And it was like, you know how, like, whenever you're doing plants and potted plants and stuff, they have like 10 different types of dirt. You know, I was going to do something like that. And they sell in these huge bags and stuff. I'm like, but you know what? I don't need all that stuff. I'm not trying to make something like a commercial operation. I just want these things to stay alive. So I was like, okay, well, if the freaking dirt in my front yard is good enough for worms, why do I have to sit there and make, you know, this big deal about it, get special stuff? So we're going to go ahead and go to my front yard. We're going to grab some dirt and we're going to fill the container. Be back in just a second. All right, so check it out. So this is in the front yard of my house. You know, like I said, I had first thought, like, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't put this stuff, you know, in there. Maybe I need to take all this stuff out. But you know what? Like, yeah, of course, big rocks take them out. But these things, like I said, I've done this before, and they thrive on just regular old dirt. You don't need to freaking make it fancy or nothing like that. I probably wouldn't put the grass in there just because. But yeah, take your Tupperware container, like I said, Tupperware. Take your country crock container and just fill it with dirt. Just whatever you have here. It doesn't have to be special. The only thing I would probably say is if you see like bugs, like, I don't know, ants or whatever, if you see that in the dirt, go ahead and just take them out. They're not going to do anything, and they're not going to serve you any purpose being in the container. So if you see anything like that, take them out. So there it is, just regular old dirt, nothing special about that. I mean, it's just dirt from my front yard. All right, so now let's go back to the garage, and I'll kind of show you how I set everything up. Okay, so we have our dirt, right? We have a country crock container. We got our regular old dirt in it. We got our lid with the holes in it. So now, when it comes to the food, same thing. There's all kinds of food you could buy out there for them, you know, all this kind of extravagant crap and whatever. No, there's 3 things that I used. And like I said, my worms lasted me at least 4 months. After 4 months, I kind of felt bad. I'm like, okay, I got these worms living in my refrigerator. I'm not going to use them. Now I started feeling bad because I don't want to kill them because it's like, I got mom and pop worms in my refrigerator. They're over here making babies. I'm like, I'm going to sit there and cut them in pieces to go fishing? I'm like, yeah, I know. I like to fish, but I felt weird. I felt weird wanting to cut them up, so I let them go. So that's the only reason why they only lasted me 4 months. I dumped them where you saw me grabbing this dirt, and as far as I know, they lived happily ever after. But like I said, so when I was doing this, they say you could give them table scraps, anything that you would normally put in a compost bin. So vegetable scraps, no meat, nothing, no chicken, nothing, whatever. But the three things that I used, and really two of those were, to me, really helpful in growing the worms or helping them live. So cornmeal is like the number one thing. This is just the Kroger brand. It's just regular old cornmeal. And this, I bought two of these just in case, and I've had this maybe like a year or something. I kid you not. We don't eat cornmeal at home very much, so best if used by July 21st, 2021. That's how long I've had it, right? So like I said, you don't need much of this stuff, just a little bit. So cornmeal is the biggest thing that they eat for me. The second thing is coffee grounds. So we use K-cups. Ours, we use the Kauai coffee, so it doesn't have the plastic thing at the bottom. But coffee grounds is another thing you can use. As you start doing this, you'll notice what your worms like and don't like. And then you can kind of just like either add or subtract things from there. The third thing is potato skins. So anytime you cut potatoes or whatever, take your potato skins, throw them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the refrigerator. They eat rotting plant matter. So if this stuff starts getting bad, like it doesn't really go bad that I've seen, it will maybe turn a little darker. But like whenever you go to feed them, you only take like a piece or two of potato skin and throw it in there, and that's it. That's how you feed them. So let me show you really quick how I feed them. Let's start with the less messy thing. So like I said, what you'll do is you'll take like one or two potato skins and you'll just throw them right on top of the of your dirt, right? Maybe two of them or whatever. And what you'll do is maybe a few days later, you'll come back and you'll look, take the lid off and take a look and see what you got. If you don't see that they're eating the potato skins, don't feed them potato skins. If you see that they're tearing them up and there's like half of them left, okay, then your worms like potato skins. Keep giving it to them. I only feed them once every week or every 2 weeks. Usually, from what I've read, if the temperature is at least 40 degrees-ish in your refrigerator, the worms will go dormant, so they don't move around as much. They don't, whatever, they don't eat as much. Kind of like bears, right? Whenever they hibernate, they just kind of just lay around not doing anything. So they don't eat a whole lot, so that's not a big deal. So that's how you do the potato skins. When it comes to the coffee grounds, so like I said, we take our cups, and you'll just punch a hole in the top or bottom, whatever, but basically you're just going to open them up. And then it's kind of like, you know how people do dip or snuff or whatever you call it, how they kind of get it, and they just pack it in their mouth. What you would do, hopefully it's coming up above, is just take a pinch of it, and then what I'll do sometimes is maybe put it, like, well, this is from this morning, so it's kind of moist. I'll just take a pinch of it and then just drop it right on top. And again, what you'll do is you'll take that and then you'll come back in a few days. If you see that those coffee grounds are gone, those worms are eating it. So boom, you don't have to worry about it because you know they do. For me, they don't really eat the coffee grounds. I don't know what it is about them. The ones that I had before, I had night crawlers before. These are big red worms or round worms. I've never done these before, but this is what I have. So, like I said, you'll throw just a pinch on top, check it back in a couple of days. If you see that they're not eating it, then don't worry about it. You don't have to give them that stuff. So, but this cornmeal, every worm that I've ever had has loved the cornmeal. They eat it up like crazy. So, and this is for like 2 containers worth of worms, like I said, and I'm only to like right here, and I've had this cornmeal for a year. So what you'll do here, and it's the same thing. I usually do it over the sink because it gets a little messy. So what you'll do is you'll take your cornmeal, just a little bit of it, and then you'll just add a few drops of water. And it's weird because the cornmeal kind of repels the water at first, so it beads up. You see how it's beating up? So you can either let it sit there, or what I'll do is I'll just kind of move it around, and what'll happen is it'll start to absorb that cornmeal. See how it's absorbing it now? You may have to add some cornmeal to it. You may have to add more water to it, but you want it to be like Play-Doh, to where it sticks together into a ball. Once it sticks together into a ball, then you're good to go. So like right there, that's perfect. See how I can just crumble it up like that and it makes a little ball? That's all you'll have to do. So what I'll do for like with this one, this is enough cornmeal for like a week. And I'll just put it on there. I'll check back a week later and that cornmeal is gone. And you can tell because it's bright yellow on top of, dark earth. So you can see if it's gone. The coffee is kind of hard to see whether or not, a freaking spider. It's kind of hard to see if the coffee grounds are gone. So when you put them, make sure you put them in the same spot so you can see. But like I said, I'll usually just do this and then just put it on top. And then, like I said, just check back in a couple of days. And if you see that they're eating the cornmeal, then feed them cornmeal. If you see that they're eating the coffee grounds, then feed them the coffee grounds. Potatoes, I mean, like I said, lettuce, cabbage, anything like that, just feed them that. And then, oh, as far as moisture, so moisture is another thing. Excuse my hands, there's cornmeal everywhere. So this is really dry, right? So what I would do is just put some water in there, right? Hopefully it's coming out up above. And what you want, and I've also read that, oh, if you're keeping them like this in dirt that doesn't really move around, what you want to do is replace the dirt every month. I don't know why they say they do that. I don't know if it's because of the moisture, maybe the nutrients. I was like, you know what, I'm not doing that. I was contemplating doing it when I first started, but I was like, no, I'm not going to sit there and swap out the dirt every single month. So what I did is I actually just left it like that. And then after the 4 months, I was like, okay, if they die, cool, maybe I should have changed out the dirt. If they don't die, then I know we're good to go. And sure enough, these guys didn't die. So what you may have to do is you have to keep the dirt moist, but you don't want it muddy. Like, see how it's like real chunky and muddy on top? Yeah, I just have to mix it with the stuff on the bottom. But what you want it is you want it moist, not to where it's wet though, if that makes any sense. So what I would do is when I go to feed them, if I feed them and I'm seeing that the dirt looks kind of dry, I'll either put a little bit more water in the cornmeal or maybe even just a few drops, like in the dirt itself. And with that, it was fine. Like I said, as long as you're not making it muddy and it's all nasty and soupy and stuff on the bottom, then you're fine. You don't have to worry about drainage holes, because some people, when they sell their kits, are like, oh, you got to put drainage holes in the bottom and this, and that. No, you don't have to do that. So this looks mixed up enough for me. So if you can see that, so it's not soupy by any means, right? It looks just like regular old dirt with water in it. So to me, that's fine. Like, I still have to mix it up a little bit more. What you'll do is you'll put your worms on top, and I might just show that just so you can see them kind of going into there, how they're like, they'll hide. Usually when you take them out of the refrigerator, they're still dormant, so it takes them a few minutes to kind of get up and start moving around. But you'll put them on top, and then, like I said, they'll go into the bottom. You won't see them. They come out at night. Of course, it's a refrigerator, the light turns off or whatever. But that's when they come out to eat, is at nighttime. I would say go ahead and add them to this, and then put the food on top. I mean, maybe even section it off. Like, put your cornmeal here, put your potatoes here, and then put your coffee grounds here. Come back in a week, and if one of them is gone, then okay, cool. They love eating the cornmeal. I'll just keep feeding them that. Another thing that I read too is, like, when you go fishing, like with these containers, we'll go out there, we'll cut a few pieces of worm. At the end of the trip, there's a few pieces of worm stuck in here still that are dead. They said don't do that. Don't mix dead worms with live worms where you're growing them. When you do that, the dead worms, it's like with strawberries, right? If you have a bunch of strawberries, one of them is bad, then they'll make the other ones go bad faster. So supposedly the same thing works with worms. So what I would say is keep one of these with you. So when you go fishing, just grab a bunch of worms, put them in this, and then go fishing. Whatever whole worms you have left over at the end of your fishing trip, then put those back in the container. Like I said, these aren't really expensive, but I mean, if you have kids or if you go fishing with the worms a lot, I mean, you could probably fit 3 or 4 of these into here and just not have to worry about them dying or always having to go to the store at the last minute. You just grab your container. Like last time I took this with me, and then the cut ones I put in here. And that way I kept them separate, and I was good to go. Okay, really fast, I wanted to show you real quick how I go ahead and put them in here, what it looks like. Maybe even a time lapse of how long it takes for them to go in. So what I did, and I do have my other camera here, so I apologize. I do want y'all to get really close in here so you can see what I'm doing. So I went ahead and combined, I went ahead and dumped out all the extra dirt, and then I went ahead and combined all the worms in here. So let me dump out more because I just want the worms. So what we'll do is we'll dump, look at how they make a ball. I don't know why they do that. So one time, funny story, I put the worms in the very top of the refrigerator, and I was like, okay, well, that's the coldest part. And man, I kid you not, a week later, I come back, and I open them to check on my worms, and my worms are all, like, hey, you saw them balled up? They're all balled up like that, but they're frozen. It was a frozen ball of worms. I felt so bad because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, these things are freaking trying to keep together to keep warm, and they freaking died. You know, and I'm picturing like, you know, like the end of the world and everybody's holding each other and everybody's dying. That's kind of what I pictured with the worms, right? That, oh, poor things, they were dying, whatever. So never put them at the top of the refrigerator. Keep them at the most bottom part of the refrigerator if you can, and then keep them in here. So like I said, we'll go ahead and let them run into the bottom. I'll probably do a time lapse or speed it up so that they go in there. Like I said, when they're dormant, they don't want to move. When it starts warming up, they start moving a lot quicker like this. So you can see them digging their way into the dirt. So give me 1 second. When I come back, they'll be gone, and then we'll go ahead and throw the food on top so you can see what I was talking about. Be back in a second. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes since I went ahead and dumped them on there. It looks like they're pretty much almost all gone now. So let me show you real quick what I'll do. So it'll probably take like another minute for the rest of them to go away. So like I said, put your potato peels, and they don't eat a lot, just like a couple of them, just like that. Put them there. Your coffee, and like I said, if your coffee is super dry, just go ahead and it's going to get messy, but just go ahead and add maybe a drop of water to it. And then this isn't clumping up very good, but that's okay. They'll still eat it. So like I said, just put your coffee, and you want it to clump up a little bit, right? Put your coffee in one corner. I know this is making a mess, but anyway, that's what we do. And then what you'll do, that cornbread, right? This stuff that we made earlier, you'll take that and put it over here. And you see that contrast, how much that stands out from the dirt itself. So when you come back in a couple days, trust me, you'll be able to see, oh yeah, these jokers, they're sitting there eating that cornmeal. They didn't know, they really like it. So then you'll know, okay, these guys aren't eating the coffee, they love the cornmeal, I'll just do that instead. Or maybe the other way, or maybe they like the potato peels. So I'll do that. Believe it or not, they don't eat a lot. Like the cornmeal that you see there, that'll be enough for like a week or two. Or like if you see that they eat it really fast, okay, well then feed them more. That cornmeal jar was like $1 or $2 or something. It wasn't expensive at all. So super cheap to keep your worms. It's a lot better than throwing them away. To me, it's a lot easier than having to go to freaking academies at the last minute or the night before. You get there and they only have those garlic worms. Who uses those garlic worms? I tried using them one time and my hand smelled like garlic for a week. I couldn't stand it. So instead of having to rely on that, hopefully they have the worms you like, or sometimes you'll go there and the worms are just half dead. No, it's better just to keep the worms that you have, or like when you go there, okay, cool, you notice they have a whole bunch of them, get 2 or 3 containers and then throw them in here. They'll keep for months. Like I said, they're not a lot of upkeep either. Just like I said, sprinkle some water in there, maybe once every week or two, and then feed them like once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, and you're good to go. So hopefully that made sense. If you guys have any questions or tips, or maybe something that I didn't do that you've tried and it did work for you, please let me know. Tomorrow is Easter, so happy Easter to everybody. Take care of your families. Tell them I said hello. Until I see you next time, take care and God bless.